Hello and welcome. You are watching Contingency's tactic for the 25-man heroic version of the Putricide encounter. In this explanation, we will try and cover everything that happens in the fight, including some of our raiders' personal tips and tricks. There are several new abilities in the heroic version of the Putricide encounter that you have to be aware of before we begin the tactic. The first one you will notice is the Unbound Plague. This debuff will be applied to a random raid member, and the damage it does will increase over time. Basically, you'll be hit for a few hundred damage the first tick, and then that damage will increase every second until it becomes unhealable. When you've had the debuff for 10 seconds, you will start taking 10,000 plus damage every second. You will probably not survive much past 13 seconds with the debuff on you. The Unbound Plague goes away after 60 seconds, but will be cast again quickly. When you get rid of the Unbound Plague, you will get another debuff on you called Plague Sickness. This debuff increases the damage done by Unbound Plague with 250% and lasts for 1 minute. Having this debuff on you means you can only have the Unbound Plague for a maximum of 5 seconds. The second new ability is the transition phases. During transition phases, you will no longer get stunned. Instead, a green and an orange ooze will spawn at the same time, and you will need to nuke them down. During this transition phase, you will get a debuff that will only allow you to DPS one of the oozes. The third new ability is that you will throw 3 malleable goos instead of the usual 2 in phases 2 and 3. That's it for the new abilities. We are now going to go through the tactic for each phase, starting off with phase 1. When you are pulling Putricide, you want to move him about halfway towards where the green ooze will spawn. Here you need to keep him until he drops the poison pools on the ground. When he has placed them underneath random raid members, start moving the boss to the green ooze's spawn point. The reason we wait for the poison pool to drop is because we do not want any poison pools to land on the green ooze's spawn location. About 12 seconds into the fight, the first Unbound Plague will appear on a random raid member. That guy starts moving towards the top of the big circle in the middle of the room, avoiding any players in his path, since he will give them the Unbound Plague if he comes within 3 yards of them. Any players in his path should also move away from him quickly, so he has a clear path to the top of the circle. When he reaches 10 seconds with the debuff on him, he will need another ranged DPS or healer to take the plague off him. The easiest way to do this is to assign one person to call out on Ventrilo or TeamSpeak the name of the next player to take the Unbound Plague. When he calls out who to take it next, you always prioritize people with the Plague Sickness debuff on them, so it is important that your ranged players can see the debuff on their raid frames. Throughout the entire encounter, you have to keep swapping the Unbound Plague between ranged players. Whoever you have calling out the name of the next player to get the plague needs to call it when about 5 seconds have passed in the Unbound Plague, so that whatever player he calls next has time to get there and take it before the guy with the plague dies. Just keep repeating that throughout the entire fight. When it comes to dealing with the oozes, we have different tactics for each of them, but they remain the same throughout phases 1 and 2. When the green ooze spawns, we have melee and tank stack up on it so they can do some damage on it before it picks a target. Ranged casters and healers are spread out in the middle of the room, so there are always players around them to soak the green ooze's explosion. It is important that when melee stack up for the green ooze as it spawns, you position yourself so that you are knocked back towards the doorway where you enter the room. You do this so that everyone is knocked in the same direction and can quickly get back on the green ooze even if it picks one of the players that has just been knocked away. If the green ooze is not dead by the time it picks its second target, everyone near the targeted guy will have to move to him to soak the damage. All other explosions that comes after the first one, you want to be knocked towards the middle of the room instead of the doorway. This is to ensure that if you target someone that was knocked back, there is always enough players around him to soak the damage. When it comes to the orange ooze, we have melee staying put on the boss, and the ranged players getting the max range from the orange ooze before it spawns. Then as soon as it appears, ranged DPS starts nuking it down, and whoever is targeted by the orange ooze kites it towards the melee who are still nuking the boss. As soon as the orange ooze comes within 10 to 5 yards of the boss, melee comes off Putricide and starts DPSing the orange ooze instead. It is important that you run away from the orange ooze when it starts to pick a new target, as it will one-shot the raid if you are picked while standing next to it, and then hit by it before you can move away. The next phase we will go through is the transition phase. During the transition phase, when an orange ooze and a green ooze spawns at the same time, you want to make sure that you only take Putricide to 80% when there are no adds alive or while one ooze is being spawned. As long as an ooze is spawning somewhere, you'll only get one additional ooze of the opposite color during the transition. This will only work while there is poison falling down from the big balls of goo on the wall. During the transition, everyone except the player with the unbound plague and the player about to take it off him stacks up on the green ad spawn location. This is where it gets very important to get knocked back towards the door when the green ooze explodes, since if you get knocked towards the middle on the first explosion and the orange ooze picks you as its target, chances are it will reach you very quickly and you will wipe the raid. As soon as the transition phase starts, you will be assigned a debuff. Either it will look like a green vial or an orange one. If you have the green color, you need to nuke the green ooze. If you have the orange one, you need to nuke the orange ooze. If you hit the wrong target, you will only be doing 1 damage a hit. There are 2 things that will often wipe you on transition phases. The first is failing to stack up on the green ooze. Often you will find the players who are DPSing the orange ooze aren't paying attention to the green ooze at all and just ignore stacking up on the green one's target. It is very important to understand that regardless of what color debuff you have on you, if you're anywhere near the green ooze's target, you stack up on it to mitigate the explosion. Having your tanks always following the green ooze around during the transition phase will help a lot with the soaking and lower your chances of losing players. Another reason people often wipe during this phase is when the orange ooze picks a new target. Both oozes can still pick players with different color damage debuffs on them, so even though you are DPSing the green ooze, you still need to know when the orange ooze is about to pick a new target so that you can get away from it. Having someone who's on the orange ad call out when it's about to pick a new target will make it a lot easier.